Hi class, today we are going to discuss how to get an A in academic discussions or college level discussions. So I want to start out with something that I call the TIE model. It may seem kind of simplistic, but I think it helps to have acronyms to memorize certain things. So let's go ahead and go over it. The TIE model, the T in TIE model stands for topic sentence. The topic sentence suggests the main idea of the passage. I stands for informational sentences. That supports the main idea further. Write several supporting sentences. And then E stands for ending sentence. The ending sentence is going to differ depending on the type of post it is. If it's a main post, it would be a summary sentence, just like any other paragraph. If it's an ending sentence in a reply post, it can still be a summary sentence, but I actually recommend a little bit of a different tact. I recommend closing with a thought-provoking question. Discussions are exercises in critical thinking. They're meant to bring up new points, counterpoints. You can disagree, expand on what your classmate has said in meaningful ways. They're not there just to kind of acknowledge everything they said or summarize. Because you have to ask yourself, how valuable is it to summarize someone's post back to them? It's not really that valuable. You need to bring in new information. You need to think of an angle that your classmate didn't think of, or you can pose a counter argument. An argument isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you have a disagreement, it's completely okay in an academic discussion. So let's go ahead and look at an example here. This is from a discussion that no longer exists from a class that I taught. That's why I'm using it as an example, and it occurred several years ago. So it's not anyone's work in particular. This discussion was about being your best self. Kind of sounds like a self-help book, but it actually was a pretty constructive discussion. So let's start out with what the student stated for their topic sentence. That's a great example of being adaptable and being able to work under pressure. Now, as I was saying before, the topic sentence should suggest the main idea of a passage. This is starting in the middle of a conversation. And the reason why I say that is your audience is something to keep in mind when you do your discussion. Your audience isn't just the person you're replying to. And many think that. Your audience is the entire class, including me. We need context. We need some sort of context as to what you're saying. And then the informational sentences fill in all the gaps thereafter. So let's go ahead and continue on. The student says, stepping up and being successful is definitely bringing your best self. Why is it bringing your best self? What entails stepping up? Stepping up is something that's different for everyone. It's a subjective term, in other words. Anytime you bring up a point, anytime you bring up a subjective point, you need to add clarifying detail to what you've already stated. And then, as you can see in my sample feedback here, I state you could follow this up with a thought-provoking question. Another idea is to present a real-world experience or some sort of counterpoint. And then what I would add on to that is to go into some research. So if we look at the web page I'm pointing out here, as you can see, there are a lot of different things that tie in with being your best self on this web page. So what you would do, I'm not saying copy this word for word, summarize some key points. Briefly read through it. You can even look for research that has a heading and different steps, and then you would just reword it in your own words. as you can see, this particular article talks about maintaining a positive attitude and not acknowledging your progress, staying organized, being flexible, eliminating distractions, taking a break, all things that we talk about in our discussion. So there's plenty of material here that you could, I'm not even saying you have to do an in-depth summary. There's plenty of material here where you could summarize and get 3 or 4, 5 sentences out of it and get plenty of material to bolster your post. Now, if you do use an article like this, I suggest going over to the citation machine, which you can now see on the screen. I'm not asking for an in-depth citation. Simply paste in the web page, as you can see here, and it spits out a citation for you. You don't have to go in and fill in the missing information just for a discussion, at least in my class. Some instructors are sticklers on that. A lot of the information does pop up within the citation machine. Just simply put it a couple lines below your post, like you would a reference page. When you write a reference page for an academic paper, you put your references at the end, whether it's MLA or an APA citation. And then based on your research, you could go in and ask a thought-provoking question based on something that you found crucial in the article you looked at. So this will definitely get you your points on replies if you take these particular steps. Now, anytime you bring up a point, it's important, and I had to say this a lot in the feedback, anytime you bring up a point, you need to follow up with supporting detail. At that point, when you kind of bring up an idea, that's when you go research it, get some material, summarize it in your own words, and then again use the citation machine as I showed you, and you have a complete reply. And the same thing applies toward your main post as well. Do a little bit of research. A little bit of research goes a long way in these discussions. That's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. Thank you.